and welcome to Build Dear. Tonight, I'm going to be spending a little time looking at Efenglater, an archery ninjitsu character, and talking about how I'm going to try and clean sheet a new build for it. Now, when it comes to me and clean sheeting builds, what I say and what actually happens may be two entirely different things, because I generally have an idea of what a build is going to look like before I even start. Now, in previous live streams, I've gone over specific details of the City of Heroes building system, how different aspects work, but one of the aspects that I have not touched on directly is how you get various enhancements to actually power your character. In a previous live stream, I brought up mids and I went through the various types of enhancements, but only really focused on one specific enhancement that I type that I do not use simply because there is no reliable method of obtaining that enhancement series in City of Heroes. And this, I think, stands a lesson to any game designer, any game developer out there. If you are building a game, you need to make sure that you have not locked content so that it is inaccessible unless a player takes extraordinary steps. For example, locking content behind a player versus player system. That's just bad, period. And the reason why it's bad, specifically in player versus player to start with, is content gating. Let me give you an example since I'm here in City of Heroes. You can see I'm back in a fire farm, and if you look up in the upper right hand corner, you can see that I'm currently sitting at, well, it says level 49. Now, if I mouse over all of these enemies, you can see that they con purple, they're level 54, obviously much higher level than me. I don't stand a realistic chance of taking these enemies on. And this is something to keep in mind when you're building a game is how do you make it accessible for players who are new to the game to get in. City of Heroes has a sidekicking system so that anybody who joins a team, and hello, Electrumi apparently is able to handle these level 54 enemies that are conning, will kill me on sight very easily. And that enables me that I can get into this map, I can experience this content with Electrumi. Now, as you can see in the lower right-hand portion of the window, I've got my power bar and the enhancements that I've gotten. These enhancements are dropping as Electrumi and the previous farmers that I've been with have defeated enemies. And you can see I've got a selection of dual origin enhancements. And moving over to this a little bit down, still some dual origins. Okay, there's a single origin. You can see that they're all conning red. And then you get to some yellows, which means they're not going to be very effective for me. Some greens or whites, which means they're even level to me. Some uh, greens, which means there'll be an improvement. And then another set of reds on the other side that I cannot use until I level up some more. Now, a big problem in City of Heroes to start with is that these enhancements were very uncommon drops. You could not realistically get all the enhancements that you needed to fill out your character just by defeating enemies alone. So this meant for a vast majority of characters, you would have to go and farm. You would have to repeat missions or task forces over and over. Specific enemies, like arc villains, would drop an enhancement on every defeat. So it paid off to just run task force after task force after task force. And very early on in City of Heroes, this meant that your leveling would be gated because you would have to go and run Positron Task Force over and over and over until you had enough enhancements to then go run Synapse Task Force, which you would then run over and over and over until you had enough enhancement that you could go run Sister Psyche's Task Force over and over and over until you got to Citadel's Task Force. Then you'd run that over and over and over, and then on to Manticore again and again and again. Then Numina, and you'd run Numina out until you hit level 40, and in the launch game, that was the cap. And that's the big problem with how you create rewards that drop for the players is that if the equipment that you hand out to a player drops so rarely that a player has zero chance. I mean, zero. There is mathematically no way that a character can make themselves a build, can make themselves a playable character at even level, even content, just on the drop that they get from defeating enemies. Your balance is fundamentally broken. And the reason I'm going over this is that this applies to every single RPG out there, and it's really something that came out of EverQuest and Ultima Online. And if you want to go back even further, it's really something that started in Meridian 59. And seriously, if you're taking design cue from Meridian 59, get out of. Excuse me, that's a rage point. All right. So, it's bad game design if your character cannot realistically create a playable build. And it doesn't matter if you're doing an equipment where you gain armor or you gain weapons or whatever, like World of Warcraft, or if you're doing enhancement like City of Heroes or whatever else. If your character cannot realistically progress and does not have a realistic path to gain whatever it needs to become a better character, then as a game designer, you have failed. Just no other way around it. You have failed. You need to start over. You need to rethink how you're balancing things. So for the secret server, there were a lot of changes made. Uh, and we're going to, since I can't talk to the character in question I need to talk to, we're going to quit out of this task force. Bye bye, Electrumi. We'll be back to see you in a little while. And we're going to go talk to what's known as transact for victory, pay to win, and there's a villain. Actually, you know what? I am a vigilante right now, so hey, let's go check out Granville. Swap sides. Loading, loading, loading. And here we go. We've got okay, pay to win. All right, pay to win or transact for victory is one of the changes that was made. Now, this can actually change per server. Homecoming server, I think, does this a little differently. Obviously, I'm not running on Homecoming, so hmm. So do keep that in mind. There is a point to this, and what I'm looking at right now, I can check. I can change things like inspiration drops. Like I can say I don't want to receive specific inspirations. Now, because of the builds that I make, I'm probably not going to need any inspirations except large, dual, and team inspirations, specifically of the defense and uh, resistant varieties. So this means that now any inspirations that I get from this point onwards will only be large, resist, defense, or combinations of the two, and that will really help me if to power up a team. Other things I can do, I can change which recipes I can drop. So I can reject uncommon recipes. That's a setting I normally make because most of the uncommon recipes aren't worth it. And if you really need to get them, either buy them from the auction house or get them with merits. And yes, there is a point to this. But the big thing in here is I'm looking for it, not prestige powers. Oh, temporary powers, buffs. And you'll find this or a variant of this on different servers. Experience boosters. Now, Homecoming has this set up a little differently. Uh, Here on the server that I'm running on, and I think this can be, if you are building your own server or if you're playing on a server, you should have something like this where you can choose double EXP for a cost or double EXP no influence. You'll have some kind of option to boost your experience. And you have other things in here like amplifiers. And the big thing about why this matters is you can control kind of what you're going to see as you're playing. So you're not endlessly trying to sell or clear your inventory of items you don't need. As you can see as I bring up this screen, I've got a bunch of uncommon recipes that have been dropping. And they're not a couple of them I probably like the Gaussian synchronized fire control. I'm probably going to need that, but those also drop in the rare table. So where the point of where I'm going with this is controlling having an idea of how you're going to get your rewards. Are are you going to try and make a leveling build? Are you making a build that you're going to slot with enhancements as you are leveling up? Well, if you're going to do that, uh, you need to have a plan. Which task forces are you going to run? What missions are you going to run? Are you going to run with a team? Are you going to broadcast? You have to really keep in mind how your reward acquisition is going to work. Now, in previous live streams, I've jumped from task force to task force to task force, and task forces are a great way to repeatedly get a set amount of merits. Now, one of the other big changes made on the secret server to ease things up is that by and large, mission rewards have been made equivalent to task force rewards. So if you are just playing missions, you start with a contact and you just go, you should be able to, just by running missions alone, get equivalent merit rewards or drops as you would get from running a task force. So in theory, you could just go, okay, in practice, because I've actually have done this, you can completely fill out a character's build by using enhancements got from just running missions. And in a previous live stream, I went to Oro, and we'll go there now because this is going to be an important part of as you're planning your build, how are you going to get the enhancement, what's your process. You probably are going to come back and go, if I run these story arcs that are available in Ouroboros, I can now go back and revisit a contact I didn't do. And by running that contact, I can get some reward merits. I may not have a strong build for in game content, but I may have a pretty decent build for mid range content. And that way, as you're planning how your build's going to go, you can go, well, I really need reward merit, so I'm just going to run missions. Or I really need a specific task force. I'm going to go look for how do I unlock that Hess task force? I know I need to be in Striga, and you start running missions in Striga. So that's the point is keeping in mind the various methods, how you're going to get enhancements, how are you going to get rewards, are you going to run missions, are you going to run task force? Yes, I'm being repetitive here. I really want to drive this point home. Have a plan for how you're going to pay for your character's advancement. Because it's one thing to simply look at a build on paper, it's another thing to make that build, to actually make that build. Now, the easier way to do it is just have 2 or 3 accounts on Homecoming or whatever server that you're on. Just run 3 characters at the same time. But unless you're a psychotic, okay, unless you're me running 3 accounts at the same time and fooling everybody else on the team that there's 3 different players is probably not something most people can do. Yes, I've done it. I've often been complimented on, I didn't even know you were all 3 players. I thought you were just being really quiet or talking on Ventrilo. Yeah, no, I'm just that good. All right. So we've gone over have a plan. I don't mean to sound like Scout from Team Fortress 2. Have a plan to kill everyone you meet, but have a plan on how you're going to pay for the rewards that you're going to get. Have an idea on what you're going to do, what your plan is. If you've got teammates to play with, that'll make progressing a lot easier because you can do force multipliers. Someone can run a tank, somebody can run a defender. Kind of traditional, But it does at least get the job done because the tank can take a little bit more damage than the defender, but the defender can just bring all sorts of nasty little buffs and debuffs to the table. Now, I will caveat here. Also, keep in mind what archetype that you're going to be playing when you are making a build, because your archetype and what your archetype does will have a significant impact on what you focus on while building. So now that that's covered, we've gone over mission, task forces should be about equal. In my experience, they can be about equal to giving you equivalent rewards. Let's talk about, where do you actually go to, you've got all these reward merits. Oh, and something else while I'm thinking about it, and we'll do it in just a second. In this case, the reward merit vendor is inside Atlas Park. Been moved. We now have a nice little vending machine. No hokey fella just standing out on the street corner. And keep in mind, you've got a wide range of conversions. If you have a really powerful farmer, somebody who can rock out X8 fire farms uh, and clear 20 million on a run very easily, you might consider converting your influence to reward merits. Another good way to get reward merits is to go and run a Ricky Mothership raid. Every Ricky that you defeat in the actual Mothership gives you a Vanguard merit. You can convert those to reward merits. You can convert I call them Imperians. I'm not sure that's the right pronunciation. Impies. You can convert Impies to reward merits. I don't really think that's a good way to go, since you probably want to keep the Impy rewards for your incarnate powers. But those are just different. Keep in mind you have those conversions available if you are on a hunt to you're not going to be able to afford a build by buying off the auction house, keeping in mind that you're going to, you can go and buy this with merits. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're on the screen is this level slider at the top. Some enhancements will only be available at a specific level. I went over Luck of the Gambler before, which starts at level 25. So if you are trying to sweet spot an enhancement, this is where you would basically come and select the sweet spot. Personally, sweet spotting is not really much of a point since you can now buy attuned enhancements or you can attune an enhancement. And that really takes care of sweet spotting because now you got the benefit up and down as long as you're within the level range of that enhancement. And I am going to state outright the random rolls are generally not worth it. They just aren't. Just save your reward merits. Reward merits are almost ludicrously easy to come by. Just go run missions, go run task forces. You'll rack up the reward merits. Don't worry about the random rolls. Don't worry about the auction house. Not auction, the architect entertainment rolls. Anyone who's telling you that you need to plan your build on making random rolls probably is doing you a disservice. So, now that we've looked at the reward merit vendor, you I think may have some idea of how that's going to operate. That where you can go and convert your reward merits into a specific enhancement without having to use the auction house and spending out however much for an enhancement. Let's uh, go and look at say preemptive optimization, and we'll look at just like this one. And okay, 5 million per enhancement, and it's not too bad. And this is another complication because this is something else that changed on the secret server, and I'm pretty sure Homecoming has implemented. I think most of the other servers have implemented as well, and that's the bucketing. And what that means is that all preemptive optimization, and endurance modification recharges are all levels preemptive optimization, endurance modification, recharge. What that means is that if you put one of these enhancements into the auction house, somebody else can buy it at level 22, at level 32, or they can go over and they can find it under the attuned enhancements and buy it there. As you can see, the price is exactly the same because as far as the auction house is concerned, it's the same enhancement. So if your server has not implemented bucketing, you probably need to find a different server. Just saying. All right. So a little bit on the auction house. We've got ourselves a plan. Now let's start thinking about. Oh, right. Uh, Probably one of the things you want to grab as early as you can, and you can grab from the pay to win vendor. Um, and this should be same across any server based on the homecoming server releases, and that's the prestige powers travel. Uh, get yourself one of these three: flying carpet, rocket bird, or void skiff, or go for temporary powers travel and get yourself a jetpack. And the reason why, and since I'm pretty sure I haven't actually done it on this character, so we're just going to run through real quickly and make a circuit of. And another thing, pick up video maps. This overlay will save you so much time. Uh, and there are instructions on the Homecoming forums on how to get video maps installed. I think there's actually now a modding tool, so you don't have to be crazy like me and copy the files directly. Hey, if you want to, I mean, you can. I'm not going to tell you not to. I'm just saying there's an easier way than the way we did it. Yes, we had to walk uphill both ways because the gravity cycled mid-shift. Hello, Howard. All right. Uh, and what I'm doing right now is we're going to make a circuit of Atlas Park. I'm going to go ahead and grab all the history plaques. And these are something else where take a moment and drop by Paragon Wiki and look up exploration badges or accolades, because some of the accolades you probably want. I'll bring them up in Mid-Zero Reborn, and cause 4 of the accolades will definitely improve your character in the game directly by increasing some base stats. And for some archetypes that hang on. Chatting. Sorry. Not showing you what that was about. Alright. Uh, okay, going back to this. Right now I'm going after all the plaques, I'm going after all the exploration badges in Atlas Park, and I just skipped right by the Vanguard building. Oh well, we'll be back there in a moment. And as you can already tell, having a travel power is something that you definitely need in City of Heroes. Now, you can, with specific builds, be very fast without a travel power. And that's where I point at my Stone Tanker build, which in Granite mode was still clocking like 26 miles per hour. Yeah, in Granite. Now, before the recent stone changes. Okay. Yes, I intentionally missed that train rail. No, I didn't! And I'm not sure what it says that I have done this so many times that I almost don't even need to look at the overlay anymore. Alright, badge, 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 badge. I need to go grab the one by the... Yeah. Not you. You. Okay, apparently I already got him. Did I get that black over here? Yeah, it is black over here. On this spot, the Hero Atlas was. And let me guess, as soon as I get the Vanguard badge. Did I even get the one atop the globe? Or the one atop City Hall? Observant. No, apparently I'm not very observant. Jumping, jumping, jumping. Badge. Yeah, I remember when thinking that somebody who said there was a badge up there, they had to be pulling my leg. They're not. There we go. All right. That's the pop I was looking for. Long range teleporter. This is a temporary power. Long range teleporter. This is a temporary power. And as you can read on the screen, collecting any exploration in a zone will now add that zone to your long range teleportation power. So this is something where if you're a new player, you really want to do Atlas Park or Mercy Island, get all of the exploration badges, unlock the long range zone transport, and that way, every time you come across a badge in a new zone, you now can just teleport to that zone. Will make getting around so much easier. All right, so let's recap. We've been over different types of enhancements, how you get them, planning on how you're going to get them, running task forces, the merit vendor, the pay to win vendor. So I guess now it's actually time to go and look at the build itself. Some 30 minutes later. All right, let's head back and meet up with Electromi. All right, back in the AE, we'll pick a little spot to hide. And let's bring Mid-Zero Reborn up. All right. Okay, going back to one, and again, this is where we try and start to put all of this together. You have multiple different archetypes in City of Heroes. Now, the first thing, if you are a new player, is stop thinking about the holy trinity of tanker, debuffer, DPS. Just drop those ideas. City of Heroes, if you make your build correctly, and it's we'll bring mids back down for a second, and we'll go check out on what exactly Electrumi is up to. As you can see, Electrumi by this icon here is a sentinel. And Electrumi is down there in the middle of a pack of high level enemies, and she's just tanking them. She is not a tanking character, but she is capable of debuffing these guys, removing their endurance, and just standing there and wiping the floor with them. Now, these are the kind of tricks you can get away with when you have an understanding of what your character is capable of doing. So you need to have an idea in mind of what the different archetypes do, and some of this you're only going to pick up as you actually play the game and play your specific character. Let's go ahead and bring mids back up. And as you create a new character in game, the new character creation system will give you a brief rundown over what each archetype specializes in. Now, some of them are a little bit of mixed bags. Straight up, Peace Bringers and War Shades are toys. Uh, Basically, they were cryptic, showing off some new tech, but War Shades in particular are fundamentally broken with a competing power set. And I may have been over this before. We'll go ahead and just go look up what's the last War Shade I worked on. 3.5, 324. Let's just go date modified. All right, Ragnar Scrab. Okay, Force of Will. And this is kind of the showcase character for somebody didn't think things through. In that, okay, Shadow Bolt, standard. Even Eye, standard. Everything's looking good so far. Uh, Mobilize, not too bad. Knockback. Knockback. Oh, that's not so bad. Wait, was that a PBOE? Wait, was that a PBAOE? Knockback. Pet for defeated enemies. Knockback. PBAOE. 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 Wait. So you got a bunch of knockback powers in a set that has all of the buffs are PBAOEs and all of the attacks push enemies away. Yeah, this is the king example of somebody didn't think this through. Making any archetype where the primary powers, where the attack powers work against the secondary powers and the self buffs is broken game design. To ever implement War Shades, they called it a challenge. No, there's a difference between a challenge and just broken game design. This is just broken. All right. The reason I'm going down that rant is, again, keep in mind what you're making, especially if it's your first time making a character. I mean, there's a lot to dig in here. So my recommendation is, if you are making a new character, a brand new character, start with Scrapper, Tanker, Sentinel, or, and this may be a little counterintuitive, Dominator. Now, the Scrapper and Tanker are fairly self-explanatory. They are melee archetypes. They take a lot of, are capable of taking a lot of damage, so they're very good to get a handle on how the game plays, or at least how the game plays for those specific archetypes. Sentinels we'll come back to. The reason why I suggest taking Dominators is that their primary power sets are controls, which are mostly ranged effects, but they get strong. Um, they get strong melee attacks. So it gives you the Dominator archetype really gives you a chance to experience attacking from ranged and controlling stuff from ranged. But also, if when you get caught up in a mob, you can still take care of yourself. And there's a lot of builds out there. They get Mace Mastery and. Oh, come on, update. Wow, that took a long time. And they get Scorpion Shield, so they can get some decent amount of defense. So that's where that's. I realize it's a crazy suggestion, but most players coming from other games, they're used to the tanker, DPS, debuff trinity, and Dominators I think are really good at introducing players to City of Heroes being a radically different concept where any archetype can in some ways do the task that are expected of another archetype. Now another archetype may be able to do it better. Going back and looking at Electrumi Flow here for a second. Electrumi is still mauling away at the enemies, but she has no aggro control. If I went in there and started attacking, I could easily outstrip aggro from her, and everyone would focus on me. Scrapper or Tanker do aggro control much better. Then again, if you in Mid Heroes Reborn, if you just hover over the different archetype, it'll tell you a little bit more about what each archetype is pretty good at, and give you an idea of what the secondaries can do. And the reason why I'm starting with Sentinels is because they give you ranged attacks, but armor sets. So they let you basically uh, stand off from a mob. You get used to attacking from ranged and supporting teams, because in the tertiaries you can pick up some support powers. But you have enough survivability that if uh, your team gets in over its head, you're not going to be left lying there on the floor. And that gives you time to learn the game, how maps work, the various maps, how task forces work, without having to panicking about I'm the only defender, I'm the only debuffer. Is Sentinels let you, they're basically a good jack of all trades to give you an opportunity to go with ranged, melee, armor, debuff, buff, without, you're not going to excel at any one point, but you're not going to be completely useless to a team either. And in case you're wondering, the only useless archetype there is a mastermind who takes no pets. And I reserve the right to mock anybody who does that, including myself because I did it. And it sucks. I'm not going to go into why it sucks because I've gone off on so many tangents already, and we're what, an hour into this? Alright, so I'm Ethan Gleta is Archery Ninjitsu Stalker. So, uh, the concept of Ethan Gleta is, well, how can I put this? She's a ninja, but she's a ninja who has a thing for ribbons. She prefers ribbon bombs, ribbon grenades, you know, glitter fetty. She'll fire a glitter cannon at you if she can. So it's kind of coming up to I've got the concept of a glitter ninja. How do I make that character come alive? Well, ninjitsu is obvious for a power set. Looking back, uh, focusing back on mids for a second. And you can see we've got several ninja powers. We got blinding power. Color that right. It'll look like a bunch of confetti to the face. So this is where I have an idea of what my character's concept is. And my character's concept is going to define other aspects of what powers I take. For example, what travel power would a ninja have? I mean, she's a kitty ninja. So she runs fast, she jumps, she likes to get to high places, and she'll just rain down arrows full of glitter at you. All right, so as you can see on the screen, uh, the primary travel power I had gone with, and this was actually a test to start with, I think I mentioned this in the previous live stream, is I had gone to concealment and I had done the recently revamped infiltration power, which is toggle self plus jump plus run speed plus stealth plus defense all. Only infiltration does not stack with the, what power is that? With herself, Shinobi Iri or Shinobi Ivy. Iri? Not sure which one it is. So so concealment kind of pointless on a character that already has stealth built into the power set. Alright, so what are my other options? Well, we've got experimentate. We're actually going to bring these up since for some reason this is being slow. And we're going to bring up the different power sets that may make sense for this character. We've got experimentation, which gives us speed of sound. That's a super speed like power, makes you go fast and you have a teleport. You've got mighty leap, where you stomp the ground and knock everything down around you before you take off and leap. That sounds like a couple of cats I know of. You have leaping, which is a standard super jump, which now has a double jump. And yeah, could see it. You have speed, which is super speed, which gives you super speed plus stealth. Well, she's already got stealth, so it's maybe not so important. Okay. So what are my other options? Well, I've got flight. There's also sorcery. And then you have mystic flight and you have fly. Well, those fly works well with archery. It's a bunch of ranged powers, so ah, hmm, not a single PBAOE, not a single melee in the archery set. So fly's actually kind of a good option. Could just hover above enemies and just rain down glittery death upon them. Okay, so let's think a little bit more. How am I going to complete this character out? Uh, what would her tertiary powers be? How would she buff or help her teammates? Would she be a mastery of the dark? Would she immobilize enemies? Would she punch them with a fistful of darkness? Would she debuff them with a magic spell? And electricity mastery, lightning field. Useful, but I'm not exactly sure that an electric field just going all the time really works for a ninja. Alright, so fire mastery. Fire mastery on a ninja. Okay, I realize there's like a half a dozen fighting games that have ninjas with fire powers, but really? Mm, really? Do you really see a ninja going, alright, everyone, gather around, heal? Just not seeing it. Alright, ice mastery. Now, what movie have we all seen recently that featured an ice ninja? No, that wasn't, oh, yeah, that was right. Mortal Kombat. Oh, whew, that could work. It's PBAOE, moderate damage, puts foes to sleep. Snuff. Doesn't really sound like something. I mean, maybe we'll shortlist that one. Leviathan mastery. No, I'm not sure. No, we're not doing the sharks thing. No sharks. Mace mastery. Hmm. Uh, nothing in that really screams hello, take me home. Moo mastery. Again, electrical. Yeah. Sonic mastery. Oh, again, doesn't really scream glitter ninja. Soul mastery. Well, we get Darkest Night earlier. We get Midnight Graph, which does that immobilize. We get Soul Temp, we get that immobilize. And we do get a powerful hold, so is she a dark ninja? Oh, what was that? Which one did I skip over? Oh yeah, Ninja Tools. Caltrops, katana to the face, a paralyzing dart. Huh. PBA melee. Okay, it does minus defense. Kind of interesting. Hmm. PBA we foe placate, minus damage, minus 2 hit. So let me pose this as a question. If you are creating a character and you come across a power that fits your concept perfectly, what reasons would you not take that power? Well, here's a very good example of why you wouldn't. Because Chimeridama, I'm still not sure I'm saying that right. is only available at level 44. This is only going to be a power that comes in the very late game. You're pretty much already going to be finished with your build. You're going to already be running the high level attack forces before you ever really get to use this. And this is something where, personally, the tertiary system should be revamped so that, Sentinel, maybe they should get these powerful debuffs earlier in their tertiary tree. Maybe not. There's some arguments for either way. But this is something you do have to keep in mind when you are creating a character is what is your end game going to look like? How do you see this character playing when you've completed the character? And a glitter ninja who just drops a smoke bomb and then just boof takes off, that really does fit the character concept. So then I take a closer look at what powers I've got. Well, I've got a melee, I've got a ranged hold, I've got a second melee, and then I got three melees. So flight as a power, while it would certainly work with archery, doesn't really work with ninja tool mastery. Flight would probably work with soul mastery, where you have uh, a melee you could skip, a ranged cone, darkest night, which is ranged, and another ranged. So you could get three ranged. Dark mastery, your debuff, you got, ranged, one PBOE and one melee you could skip. So to get to that debuff, you could just take your two ranged powers. So flight could work with that. Uh, so that's you really have to think about what makes sense, because if you take a travel power that works in opposition to the powers that your character actually has, players are going to be looking at you kind of strangely. And this goes back to with the Warshade. The Warshade is fundamentally broken because somebody wasn't thinking when they smashed powers together. Is when you make things more difficult for your character by breaking how the powers work, that's bad. So, pretty much we settled on, or at least I've settled on, Ninja Tool Mastery as something that fits how I see this character playing. Now, once I've made the build, and I have the powers in mind that I'm going to use, and I've got everything lined up, then I can come back and start playing around with, does this slotting fit any of the other powers? And then I can make a build for somebody else who may say, you know what, I really want to be a psychic ninja. Okay, let's see if we can make the first build with the Ninja Tool Mastery, if that slotting can be made to work uh, with your desired tertiary. But for now, we're going to start with Ninja Tool Mastery. Ninja Tool Mastery kind of then enforces I'm down to the am I a speedster or am I a jumper? Well, I've already kind of settled on the glitter ninja cat thing, so I'm either super jump or force of will. Now, if I have extra slots, force of will does give me a debuff, and we can resolve. And if I had even more slots to spend, I've got a quasi T9 that may even work as a look at the gambler proc. I don't think I'm going to need that because ninjitsu, and we'll get to that in a minute. But compared to super jump, which okay, I do have combat jumping, which does give me a look at the gambler proc. Again, I don't think I'm going to need that, but I really don't have anything else that adds something to the build. Spring attack is how can I put this? I made several builds on several different archetypes with spring attack to try and close or to try and close a performance gap with PBAOE damage. And except for one case, trying to fit spring attack in actually decreased the total amount of damage each character did. The only case where it didn't change the amount of damage was a tanker pre-tanker upgrades, and that's just because tanker damages were so low, were just bottom tier to begin with. So, yeah, leaping doesn't really have any much to offer beyond combat jumping, which does give me a resistance to immobilize, except ninjitsu. I've already got where was it? Uh, Kuji and Rin. I've already got resistance to sleep, immobilize, confuse, fear, psionic, so I'm already rocking resistance to what combat jumping brings to the party. So uh, looks like I've kind of narrowed it down for what fits my character. For what has powers that may be useful if I get to them is Force of Will and Mighty Leap. So we're just going to stick Mighty Leap at 14. What is going on over there? Oh, I was found. I'm dead. Oh well. Alright. Well, that takes care of worrying about what's going on there. Okay, so I've got my. Well, since I'm dead, I might as well. Now we'll go ahead and leave that there. So now that I've got Mighty Leap set, uh, if I can get it, I may want Hasten later, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so let's start thinking about slotting the other powers. We want Sting of the Wasp, Paralyzing Dart, Lotus Drops, Kyriodama. Alright, there we've got our turn off of. Okay, there we go. That's better highlighted. Alright, now that we've got our powers that we think that we want. Now I'm skipping Tashibishi because it's just Caltrops. It's just a rename. It's just the power designer was being funky. So I'm skipping this for one very good reason. It has a mag 50 fear effect, and it summons Caltrops. So you drop these, your enemies are going whoosh. Wave goodbye to everyone. Run, little girl, run. Now, for some builds, caltrops may be useful. If you are a controller or a dominator and you can immobilize enemies, somebody tossing caltrops is just, hey, bonus. Now the enemies are feared and they can't move. But if you don't have any control, if I was running, real quick, and I'll swap to Dark Blast. If I was running Dark Blast and, wow, this is taking forever to load. Alright, hmm, okay. At this point, I go, have I ever actually run a Dark Sentinel? And I'm kind of going, maybe? Alright, so, okay, most Dark Blasts have a group immobilize. Oh, the group immobilize was in the Dark Mastery, so it's not in the primaries. There. And that's something else to keep in mind is that if a power is in a tertiary, it's probably not in the primary set or the secondary. Okay, so again, uh, don't have any good way to control enemies or keep them in place, so Tashibishi, unless you are running with someone who can control enemies, is an easy skip. So now let's go down our defense powers. Koji and Retsu. If I check out the info, this is a Crash T9. If we build this right, we're probably not going to need it. We are probably going to want Blinding Powder because it fits our character concept. Boreku, uh, Resistance to Knockup. Yeah, we probably are going to need that definitely. Self Heal. That's going to be a nice proc holder at the very least. Self Endurance. Yeah, we probably will need it, but we'll move it to level 49 for or now, because I don't think we're going to need it in the low end. Okay, so Kushi and Ren are resist. Yeah, definitely want that. Our self plus defense. Oh, this is something else while I'm thinking about it. Uh, in configuration, effects, and math, there's an option to attack. Always have that option checked, because that'll tell you. Sorry, as I just realized that because of where I'd click last, these weren't being listed at the powers where they could be taken. Let's make my primary slot there. All right, in danger sense, that's one of our defenses. Okay. Now, on a Sentinel, your inherent Sentinel opportunity is tied to your T1 and T2 slots. If I remember correctly, T1 is offense and T2 is defense. For the most part, T2 doesn't, the defensive opportunity doesn't actually buy you anything. I've only had one character that I think was useful on, and that's because she kept running out of endurance. Um, I mean, that may have just been a concept build, actually. All right. So moving down, same thing. Let's work backwards. Uh, Starting with, we want our nuke, Rain of Arrows. We want our very high damage attack. We want our ranged high damage attack. We definitely want explosive arrow. We definitely want aim. We definitely, well, yeah, range shot, high damage. We definitely want that, and we definitely want fistful of arrows. Okay, so now this shows us that we have 3 slots free. We have 22, 23, and 30 that are not taken up by other powers. Now, one of the things that I'm planning on doing with this build is testing combat teleport as a host for the Gaussian proc. So we'll take combat teleport, and that leaves us 2 powers where we can maybe put whatever we want to put. So let's keep those powers open and start focusing on the build. At this point, I'm going to start with defensive powers. Anything that takes a defensive buff. And I'm going to go ahead and just put 3 slots in each defensive buff power. And as resist. Vision and Shaw, self heal.